Roughly 1 year ago today, the Washington Wizards finally did what many thought they should have done a long time ago and traded franchise pillar Bradley Beal, all-star level player Kristaps Porzingis, and a complete teardown and rebuild of the roster with help from President Michael Winger and GM Will Dawkins. In the first year of the Will Dawkins-Michael Winger era, the Wizards won 15 games, which is pretty bad, but it was kind of all part of the plan. So in this video, what I'm going to do is rehash the events of last season and kind of forecast into next season what this offseason is going to look like for the Wizards and how we can use this year to get better and improve with the vision of Will Dawkins and Michael Winger. By the way, my name is Tyler, I'm a Wizards fan, and I talk about the Wizards, so let's get going. What I want to do to start is just kind of give a visual baseline of how this roster is going to look. So I'll have 15 roster spots and 3 two-way slots, which is obviously a traditional NBA roster. And as I go through the video, I'll kind of talk about how the Wizards are going to fill this out, via different players or situations, and how just the roster will look as I go on. So you'll kind of see as we get going, but the roster will slowly fill out as I keep talking. First things first, I kind of want to just talk about the players that I think are like 99.7% chance they're going to be here next season, which on a normal rebuilding team usually isn't a lot, but the Wizards are kind of unique that we have a bit more than normal. So I just kind of want to dive into those because these are the guys that are like future pillars of the organization. So let's kind of start there. It honestly feels wrong to start this video off with anyone but Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole had one of the most eventful seasons of any Wizard I can remember in recent history. To kind of rehash events of seasons past, Jordan Poole was acquired last season by the Wizards in what was effectively a salary dump from the Warriors, getting off Jordan Poole's long-term contract in exchange for Chris Paul's shorter expiring contract, which would free up them money and was advantageous to the Wizards as it gave us somewhat of a young star to kind of rebuild with, which I don't want to compare here, kind of mirrors when the Thunder acquired a lesser-known young player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, from the Clippers and what was the Paul George trade. To put it bluntly, Jordan Poole had a bad season. He struggled shooting the ball, he wasn't that good playmaking the ball, struggled with turnovers, and overall just was not comfortable in the offense at all. And a lot of that had to do with his pairing with backcourt mate Tyus Jones. I want to get into that a bit later, so I'll save the meat of it for now. But to put it bluntly, Jordan Poole did not have a good season. But with that said, Jordan Poole is 100% going to be a Wizard next year, and here's why. Jordan Poole had a bad year, yes. However, Jordan Poole ended off the season putting up very, very, very good numbers. In what role? A point guard role when Tyus Jones went down with injury. So, on top of him ending the year quite well, he also has a very hefty contract that the Wizards couldn't trade if they wanted to. Granted, I don't think we're going to. I don't think we're going to look at it. Jordan Poole is on the roster next year, which hopefully involves him in a solely point guard role. So, to start off the video, Jordan Poole, 100% going to be a Wizard. Kind of want to lump two guys into one here, but I want to start off with talking about Deni Avdija and Corey Kispert. Deni Avdija was drafted in 2020 with the 9th pick, and Corey Kispert was drafted in 2021 with the 15th pick. Both of these guys have gotten better and better and better as they've been with the Wizards. But this year, under the new regime, under Michael Winger, under Will Dawkins and their developmental teams, these two both hit skyrocketing peaks. Deni Avdija realized he was 6'9", can go to the basket whenever he wants, shot 40% from 3 for the first time in his career, and became a genuine force offensively, averaging I think 14 points per game, playing great defense, and supplanted himself as one of the premier future role players in this league. There is no team in the league who wouldn't want a Deni Avdija right now. And to top it all off, Deni Avdija's contract is beautiful. You could not get better value for his contract. It is descending, it's low money. There is no contract better than that of Deni Avdija. To pivot to Corey Kispert, similar trajectory, got better and better, but under the new regime, took another leap. He's always been a good shooter, but this year he discovered that he can put the ball on the floor. He can attack, he can cut. He's always been one of the best cutters in the league, but now he's taking that level to say, hey, when I get the ball and they're running me off the three-point line, now I'm able to go with that, and I can do that, and I can attack, and I can be a lethal three-point shooting offensive weapon. Both of these guys still have their flaws, and I think they are more likely to get traded than Poole would be, but it's like a 99.7% chance versus a 99.5% chance. These guys are not going anywhere. They could be pillars of a really, really good Wizards team in the future. Deni Avdija, Corey Kispert, 100% Wizards. Also want to talk about Corey Kispert is extension eligible this season, and I think he will be getting an extension this season. I talked about Deni Avdija. He got a really good contract. Michael Winger And Will Dawkins have a very great history of giving out contracts. I don't think that'll change with Corey. I think we're going to re-sign him for good money. I don't know what exactly the numbers are going to look like. You'll kind of see it with guys around his class. Trey Murphy III is going to get a contract similar to what Corey Kispert gets, probably a bit higher because Trey Murphy's just that bit better. But Corey Kispert is extension eligible this season and will probably get an extension at some point. You'll probably hear about it. Woj will tweet it. Just want to put that out there that he's probably going to get extended as well. So yeah. Next crop of guys that I kind of want to touch on are Johnny Davis, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and Tristan Vukovic. Not Vucevic, Vukovic. There's a difference. Thank you. But I kind of want to talk about them. I lumped them all into the same category because they're all draft picks of late. Granted, they all kind of have their own story and baggage that I'll get into separately, but these are guys that I think are 100% going to be on the Wizards, which I'll explain for different reasons. First guy I kind of want to single out here is Johnny Davis. To put it as nice as I can, Johnny Davis sucks at basketball. If you're not caught up on Wizards lore, he was drafted 10th out of Wisconsin in the 2022 NBA draft. And Johnny Davis sucks. He is an okay rebounder. He's an okay defender, I guess, if I had to give the guy something. I'm just running clips off here of me just watching the games casually and watching him play. I have so many bad beat clips of him. I could make a 20-minute video. There is no saving grace for Johnny Davis. He's only on the team because cutting your 10th pick into 3 years into his career is bad PR, effectively. So we picked up his option. He'll be on the team this year. Maybe he has one last dance at showing something. It's not going to happen. Johnny Davis will be off the roster next year, but for this year, he's going to be on the roster unless he gets dumped at the trade deadline or dumped at the offseason, this offseason, in like a trade where you need to heavily match salary. But like I said, I think he's going to be on the team because nobody else would want him. I have no reason why anyone would want him. He sucks. Not to stick to the negative theme, but Patrick Baldwin Jr. also sucks. He hasn't really shown much. I guess he's shown more than Johnny. Patrick Baldwin Jr. was a 27th pick out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is a mid-major school, which also sucks. He was traded from the Warriors to us in the Poole trade, and he hasn't shown a whole lot. His calling card is supposed to be a shooting. He's not that good of a shooter. He's a negative athlete, and he's not a really good defender. Like I said, same thing with Johnny. He's on the roster because cutting your first-round pick 3 years into the career is just bad PR. He's going to be here unless we need him to match salary, in which case we will promptly ship his ass off. Patrick Baldwin Jr., unfortunately, also sucks. Finally, can kind of go positive with somebody in this group. Tristan Vukovic genuinely had a very good season last year. Just to kind of rehash what happened with him, Tristan Vukovic was drafted with the 42nd pick in last year's draft out of Serbia Partizan. Partizan is his club. Vukovic is actually unique because he didn't come over to the Wizards right away. He played Summer League with us, then went actually back overseas to play with Partizan. They don't get many minutes. If you're a young guy in Europe, you're not going to play many minutes. They have no real incentive to play you if you're just going to jet to the NBA anyways. So he didn't really get that many minutes over there. So he signed with us, came over, and although it was a very small sample size of games, Tristan Vukovic genuinely played extremely well with us, and he's something to build off. He's maybe one of the first second-round picks the Wizards have had that has shown potential in a very long time. Vukovic is going to be on the team 100% next year. He's something with potential on the roster. Next up is Bilal Coulibaly. Bilal Coulibaly, I don't even want to spend too much time on. Bilal Coulibaly is 100,000% going to be here next year. He's the only player I would consider untouchable next year for the Wizards. Bilal Coulibaly is a ball of clay, and with that ball of clay, he could become a billion different things. He could be a high-end role player. He could be a genuine star for the Washington Wizards. He's untradeable. For the first time since I've been a Wizards fan, I can look at one of our picks and say, I don't know what he could become, but I have a feeling it's going to be something great. Just Bilal in the philosophy of drafting is such a breath of fresh air for Wizards fans that I don't know if I can articulate it enough. I don't want to salivate over Bilal Coulibaly, too long. Like I said, this is just who's on the roster, who's not. Bilal Coulibaly 100% on the roster, but he provides a level of excitement for Wizards fans that I can't even wrap my head around. Bilal Coulibaly, Bilal Coulibaly, Bilal Coulibaly. Thank you. Okay, so this is an updated look at the roster sheet. These are the 7 guys that I genuinely believe will be on the roster next year no matter what. I put the percentages below of how likely it is that they're on the roster, and as you can see, all of them are pretty high. The lowest is Patrick Baldwin at 80%, and that's only because maybe we could throw him in to match a salary. And I'm serious, I put Denny a percentage below Vuk, for example, for a reason. I think Denny is more coveted around the league, so he's more likely to get traded, even if it's just that little bit percent. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at now. I don't see these guys not being on the Wizards next year. So this is just like quick little update before I keep going on the more complicated guys. Two players that I want to pivot to are Marvin Bagley and Richaun Holmes. You might be wondering, why are these like half washed up, half decent centers on a rebuilding, retooling young roster? Well, that is for a reason. Let me first allow Adrian Wojnarowski to explain better than I would.
What Washington will be the place for now, with this new CBA and lots of teams having to get money off, Washington's going to be there like Oklahoma City did, his past employer, Michael Wingers, to be the team that's going to take on your bad contracts, a landing spot for them, and you're going to give me first-round picks. You're going to give me assets for them, and that's how you start to rebuild. That's how you start to put it back together. They can be in free agency with cap space. This is not a bad deal for the Washington Wizards. This is a deal based on the new reality of the new economics in the NBA.
So as Woj kind of explained right there, we are the team that teams are going to want to dump their old salary and their bad players onto us in exchange for picks. We take your bad salary, you give us picks. Even trade. However, to do that, you need expiring contracts. That's where I transitioned back to Marvin Bagley and Richaun Holmes. Marvin Bagley and Richaun Holmes both have roughly $12 million expiring contracts, which makes them bodies to be able to take on that bad salary, to be able to take on those bad contracts, which is why they are on the roster. Now, with that said, I don't know if those trades will materialize this offseason or this trade deadline. I think it's just important to highlight that these are guys that are likely going to be used in these dump situations. As that relates to the current roster, I am going to place them on the tracker as a 75%. I really don't see them getting used this offseason. Like I said, it's kind of hard to predict, but just my personal opinions, I don't think it'll be this offseason. I think we have some other issues to take care of before we worry about that. But maybe that's on the front of Michael Winger and Will Dawkins' mind. We'll never really know. But if I'm right now, I'm going to put them at 75% that they're going to be on the roster. But I think it's just important to keep that in our mind and keep that flowing, that these guys are on the team because they are going to be bodies to help us get more picks, which is the main goal when you're a rebuilding team. Get young talent, get picks. So that's where I'm at with Richaun Holmes and Marvin Bagley III. I do want to talk about the NBA draft a little bit. Obviously, the NBA draft is going to have a massive impact on how this roster shakes out. As it currently stands, we have the 2nd pick, the 26th pick, and the 51st pick. So in my mind, I believe that we will walk out of the draft using our 2 first-round picks. We might move up in the order, up or down, but we surrendered. If you remember, Daniel Gafford was the trade to get our 2nd first-round pick that ended up at 26. So I don't think we're going to trade that pick for like some later move because we traded Gafford for that pick, so we're going to hold stand. So I think we will walk out of the draft. I don't know which order. It could move up or down, like I said, but we will walk out of the draft with 2 first-round picks, meaning 2 standard contracts will get filled. We also have a 2nd-round pick. I'm going to be honest, it is going to be incredibly hard to predict if a team stands pat with their 2nd-round pick, if they trade it for other 2nd-round picks, or what they do with it. 2nd-round picks are just very volatile, and they can move any which way. So I'm just going to assume we stay put, and we have a 2nd-round pick at 51, which means that'll be used as a 2-way slot. Usually if contracts or 2nd-round picks are beyond, I'd say 45 and back, they are going to be used in 2-way slots. So with this draft, I will fill 2 standard contracts with the 2 first-round picks that we have and 1 2-way slot with the 2nd-round pick that we have. Obviously, I could dive. I want to do my own video on this, diving deeper into it, and I could just ramble about the draft for days. But I'll keep it at this. This is what I think we walk out with. So yeah. Now I'm gonna get weird for a second, but bear with me. I want to talk about Landry Shamet. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why is this guy talking about Landry Shamet? What is Landry Shamet doing on the Wizards? Landry Shamet's not even that good. I agree. However, Landry Shamet, in my opinion, could hold the key to unlocking this offseason for the Washington Wizards. Let me explain. Landry Shamet's contract is unique. It is unique in the sense that he is due for $11 million next season, with the caveat that that $11 million does not fully guarantee until the 29th of June, which at the time of this recording is in about 9 days. So what does that mean for us? That means if a team is trying to get off salary, as I explained with the Richaun Holmes, with the Marvin Bagley, it becomes even easier with Landry Shamet's contract because it is non-guaranteed, which means if a team, for example, let's say player A makes $26 million, Landry Shamet makes $11 million. We have the cap space to take your $26 million player off the books for you. We'll give you back Landry Shamet, because if you're a second apron team, for those not aware of the CBA, if you're a second apron team, you can't take in more money than you're giving out. So this helps us bridge that gap. And you can then waive Landry Shamet because, as I said, this contract is not guaranteed. So, going back to the previous example, if you have a player making $26 million and you trade him for Landry Shamet's expiring $11 million, that would clear a team's books of $37 million, assuming they waive Landry Shamet, which I assume most teams would, because Landry Shamet, while he's, I guess, a serviceable role player, he's Landry Shamet. So what that does for the Wizards is, if we are going to clear your books of $30+ million, you are going to give us picks. You're going to give us your first. You're going to give us your seconds. We are going to get picks for Landry Shamet, which, as I explained, or Woj explained in the previous clip, this is what the front office is doing. This is how the Thunder got so good. They took these contracts, they took on these contracts, they got picks, and with these picks, they drafted so well. This is the formula for us to succeed. And it's funny, but I genuinely believe that Landry Shamet, of all people, unlocks this key for us. Now, so as this relates for Landry Shamet being on the roster next year, I'm going to give Landry Shamet a 25% chance of being on the roster next year. And I deleted the Wizards logo and I made a little gone section for it so I can put some of the guys that I think are going to leave, because that's what we're going to dive into here. But I think 25% chance that Landry's going to be here. If he is here, I think it would only be in that volume of like Rashawn Holmes, Marvin Bagley expiring contracts if we can't get him off this year. But 50% chance that he's going to get traded, 25% chance that we'll just waive him outright if we can't find a trade. And then that 25% chance if you strike out on trades and you say, all right, we have his expiring contract, let's try it again at the deadline or whatnot. So 25% chance Landry Shamet is going to be on the roster next year. Probably gone, clearing a roster spot for like a young talent. Next two players I want to talk about are the two players that are going to affect this offseason for the Wizards the most out of any two players, and those players are Kyle Kuzma and Tyus Jones. Okay, so I'll start off with the more high profile of the two. I'll talk about Kyle Kuzma. So Kyle Kuzma, for those that don't remember, came over from the Lakers in the trade that sent Russ to LA and Kuzma and some others over to the Wizards. And with the Wizards, Kyle Kuzma has gotten better and better and better for the 3 years that he's been here. But with that said, it's time for Kyle Kuzma to go. I can't be more appreciative of Kyle Kuzma and his time with the Wizards. He's genuinely one of my favorite Wizards of all time, as weird as it might sound. He's given us plenty of memories, plenty of moments. He's been great. But he is playing his best basketball, and you have to capitalize on that right now. There is no better time to trade Kyle Kuzma. You are at a crossroads in the franchise when you have only Denny, only Bilal, kind of interfering with Kuz in his minutes. Very soon we won't have that luxury. We're going to have more forwards coming in. If we Zachary Shai is a prospect that's been mocked to us. If we get him in there, his minutes will falter because of Kyle Kuzma. It is no better time to trade Kyle Kuzma than right now. Now, if you actually remember, the Mavs and the Wizards were in advanced talks to send Kuz to Dallas last trade deadline, but the front office took it to Kuz, and Kuz said, and I quote, him and the Mavs aren't on the same timeline, the Mavs aren't contenders, something to that effect, which obviously worked out great for him. I digress. I think Kuz has been in the rumor mills for every offseason trade deadline that I can remember. So the rumors have been there. They haven't been so much there this offseason. However, I think I might just be premature in making this video. I think they'll pick up as we get closer to draft season. I'm going to throw up some mock trades and just some rumors that I've seen about what the Wizards are looking for in terms of value. Me personally, I believe Kuz will get traded for at least one first-round pick. I think the Wizards are hoping for 2. Obviously, I'm hoping for 2 as well. But I think it'll be somewhere in that range, plus like a salary match player to get back. If it is just one pick, we could also look at like maybe a prospect, maybe like a lesser-known young guy on a good team looking for Kuz. I don't want to speculate too much on the teams because I think that really just comes down to who Michael Winger is talking about, who wants to buy in the offseason, which I said there hasn't been much rumors this offseason. The Kings have been interested before. I think the Grizzlies are a pretty good fit. The Thunder have been rumored before and are a pretty good fit. So that's just some teams that I think he could go to. But like I said, he's been rumored for a very long time. This is just kind of what I think the trade will look like just right now. But yeah. So as that relates to Kuz and his spot on the roster, I think it's hard to predict if he's actually going to get traded. Because like I said, there's been no rumors. I don't know exactly what they're thinking. I kind of laid out why I want him to get traded. But there are no rumors. I have nothing to base it off of. But just for this video, I'm going to assume positively and assume we trade Kyle Kuzma. And when we trade for Kyle Kuzma, we'll likely get at least one player back, just a salary match. So I'll put that on the roster sheet just to track it that way. We could also potentially get a pick this year, which could affect another pick coming in. Just for right now, just for argument's sake, I'm just going to put one player on the roster sheet in a Kuz trade. Let's say we get 2 future first-round picks and just a salary match for Kuz straight up. I'm going to put that on the roster sheet for how that's going to affect the actual roster. But like I said, Kuz, I hope he gets traded this offseason. It's the perfect time for both parties. Honestly, I think Kuz will like this move a lot. So that's where I'm at with Kyle Kuzma. Moving to Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is a genuine, unrestricted free agent this offseason. He could go wherever he wants. No team option, no player option, no non-guaranteed versus guaranteed salary. Tyus Jones is a free agent, and he can go wherever he would like to. In the postseason presser, when Michael Winger and Will Dawkins addressed the media, they said they would like to bring back Tyus Jones, and Tyus Jones expressed a desire to come back, and I'll play that clip right now.
You know, Tyus, to your point, he is an unrestricted free agent, and there are 29 other teams that know he's a good player and a good dude, and he's going to have a lot of options. He deserves to have those options. He deserves to have those conversations. He did express to us an interest in coming back, and we expressed to him an interest in coming back, bringing it back. We'll have those conversations in July.
So if you just read in solely to that clip, you would assume that Tyus Jones is probably likely to come back. They wanted to come back. He wants to come back. Tyus Jones wants to come back. But as I referred to in the beginning of the video, Jordan Poole ended his season off with a stretch of games that was genuinely extremely good, which was a far cry from his beginning of the season. And what was the common denominator between the bad start and the good finish? When he was playing bad, he was playing alongside Tyus Jones as the 2 guard. When Tyus Jones went down, Poole ended the season as the sole point guard. And in the next clip I'm about to play, Michael Winger talks directly about that. He had a perfectly asked question by one of the reporters about this exact dilemma, and this is what he had to say.
One more quick follow-up on that. The one change that did seem to be made structurally for him was putting the ball in his hands. Obviously, first the move to the bench, and then ultimately when Tyus goes out, putting the ball in his hands as the starting point guard. One, what conversations were that? Just like Brian making the decision versus you all doing that collaboratively, and then 2, Tyus is an unrestricted free agent. You guys, when not trading him, and also in comments have said that we want him back. How do you square that of how that all could potentially work together moving forward?
You're hitting upon what will be a very complex conversation for us. Jordan does like having the ball in his hands, and he's really good with the ball in his hands. Tyus likes having the ball in his hands and is also very good with the ball in his hands. It is our job, along with a head coach and a coaching staff, to figure out how to make that work. But I truly have no answers for you right now as to how we make all of Jordan's best and all of Tyus's best coexist. Once we have a coaching staff in place, that'll be one of the very first things that we roll up our sleeves and try to figure out.
If you take those clips at face value, you would understand that the front office both wants to bring Tyus back, but they also don't know how to pair Jordan Poole with Tyus Jones. Now, I'm going to try to answer this question, or this dilemma, the way I would, not necessarily the way I think they would. If I'm the front office, I'm letting Tyus Jones walk in free agency. The reason I am letting Tyus Jones walk in free agency is because the only reason the Washington Wizards front office wants to re-sign Tyus Jones is to retain his value. Tyus Jones is pushing 30 years old. He's not going to be on the roster when we are finally out of this rebuild and contending. We are bringing him back, or potentially bringing him back, to retain value for him, which I don't think is all that high. If you remember, the Washington Wizards traded Kristaps Porzingis, who just had a career year, for Tyus Jones, and a kind of complicated trade I won't get into now. But in essence, you got Tyus Jones for Kristaps Porzingis. If Tyus Jones turns around and walks for nothing, you can say, oh man, the Wizards traded Kristaps Porzingis and literally got nothing for that. And that is objectively not good. While I agree it is bad losing Tyus Jones for nothing, I think losing Tyus Jones outweighs the potential stunting of Jordan Poole's growth that would come with bringing back Tyus Jones. If you bring back Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole likely goes back to that form we saw at the beginning of the season and not the form we saw at the end of the season, which is way more detrimental than not being able to retain the 2 second-round picks that Tyus Jones will get traded for this deadline or next deadline. It is more important to prioritize the development of Jordan Poole or any other prospect you bring in over getting 2 second-round picks for Tyus Jones in a couple years. So if I'm the Wizards front office, I'm letting Tyus Jones walk for nothing. And although it'll hurt in the short term, the long-term benefits to letting Tyus Jones walk now are going to be unfathomable right now. Not to gas it, but Jordan Poole becoming better, Jordan Poole becoming a better player far outweighs getting a second-round pick from Tyus Jones. Since we're talking about Tyus Jones and his free agency, I kind of want to just highlight the only other free agent that's of importance to the Wizards fans, and that would be Anthony Gill. If you're not caught up on Wizards lore, Anthony Gill doesn't really play that much. He's not all that good when he does play, but he's in effect the Wizards version of Udonis Haslem. There's reports that he drives Bilal to games. He showed Bilal where to get his hair braided. All the teammates love the guy. So I think, in my opinion, keeping Anthony Gill is valuable from that sense. Even if we don't keep him as a player, keeping him on the staff, keeping him within the org. Organizations that flourish need players like Udonis Haslem, need players like Anthony Gill. So if I am the Wizards, I hope, and I think we will, because he's got a bit of an in with Ted and some of the front office, and they know what he brings. So if I'm the front office, we should bring back Anthony Gill on a minimum contract or just move him to the coaching staff. So for the roster sheet, I'll put him as a minimum contract, but he's a free agent that I think we should bring back. Real quick, I also want to touch on Jared Butler and Eugene Omoruyi. Jared Butler and Eugene Omoruyi started out this season on 2-way contracts, and as the season progressed, as guys went down with injury, and just their overall play with some of like the G League team, Capital City Go-Go, and when they get spot minutes off the bench, etc., they were pretty good, so they earned themselves standard contracts. Both of their contracts next year aren't fully guaranteed. If I'm the Wizards, I'm bringing back Jared Butler. I think Jared Butler genuinely played very well to end the season. And he's a guy that could be that third point guard, especially on a team like this. I think it's valuable to bring back Jared Butler. And then Eugene Omoruyi, I'm going to cut Eugene Omoruyi. I think we're going to make some moves in the offseason, like I've kind of highlighted here, where we might need a roster spot here or there. We might pick up somebody in undrafted free agency. So I'd waive Gino Omoruyi. Gino plays with a lot of heart. There's not a whole lot of skill there. I'm kind of giving him the Johnny Davis treatment. I can run off some clips I just have of him just not being very good, but he's a good guy, good heart. Both of these guys are very good guys, hard workers. They made their way from the Go-Go to the Wizards. So I keep Jared Butler, cut Gino, but if you want to keep him around on the G League team, that'd be fine. But I'll put that on the roster sheet when I show that at the end of the video. Just want to highlight those two guys, though. Last thing I want to touch on here is the 2-way contracts. I noted that we're going to have a second-round pick that probably fills the 2-way contract, so that'll leave us with 2 spots. Technically, Justin Champagnie is already occupying one of the 2-way slots, but that's very easily waivable. Although we're contractually tied to him, we can waive him without having to pay him any money. But Justin Champagnie and Jules Bernard were the 2 guys that ended with our 2-way contracts last season. I would give them another shot, maybe play them in summer league, see what they can do in that environment at another 2-way shots. Basically, open tryouts for the 2-way slots with Justin Champagnie and Jules Bernard maybe having a step up above the competition. So if we brought in an undrafted free agent and they played very, very well in summer league, we can just give them a 2-way slot. So I'm just going to fill those with like question marks. Like I said, open tryouts. Anyone could get the 2-way slots. We should just keep those open just to have that flexibility. So ending off here, this is the final roster sheet that I will show. As you can see here, we do have a 1 slot open. I'm just going to kind of leave that slot open because, like I said, we could trade some guys and that could bring back other players to us. And like I said, the draft is flexible. We could gain another pick from a different trade. So I'll leave that spot open. I haven't touched on free agency because I really don't think we're going to be super active in free agency. Like I said, we're going to have a lot of things to cover up trade-wise, draft-wise. So free agency is definitely not going to be the way we add players this offseason. If we do hypothetically have 1 or 2 slots that we could fill in free agency, just as a philosophy, I would want to target guys who are lesser known, like end of the bench, like second round picks who just got cut from teams that couldn't have them on the team anymore, i.e. Isaiah Joe was on the Sixers fighting for a roster spot, got cut, picked up by the Thunder, and now he's a major piece in their development and their team. So just picking up guys who are just condensed out of really good teams, who are young guys, young talents. This is a league that needs expansion, probably will get expanded very soon, but just picking up on those guys I think will be valuable to us. So just showing up the roster, that'll be kind of free agency how I want to look at it, but Yep, this is the final roster sheet that I'm looking at. Honestly, I think I feel pretty good in my predictions about how this will go. I could be wrong on a lot of things. We'll see. I'll make some other videos highlighting what I got wrong, what I got right, but this is just kind of where I'm at right now. So yeah, that was the Washington Wizards offseason. Don't have much else to say. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Make sure to like, give me a subscription. If you also made it this far, comment Johnny Davis sucks, because Johnny Davis does suck. But like I said, this is Tyler. My name's Tyler. I talk about the Wizards, big Wizards fan. I'm going to make videos throughout the year about the Wizards. So yeah, just give me a like. I appreciate you watching if you made it this far.